Welcome to another episode of the Shredder Show. Today, this is going to be fun because we've got Dean Henry from UAE Peptides, and we're going to have a masterclass on peptides. So this is something I've wanted to go in depth on before, and we haven't had anyone to talk about this before. So thank you very much for your time today, Dean.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
So for anyone listening to this, very brief synopsis, what are peptides?
So peptides are basically just a chain of amino acids. So as soon as two amino acids are bonded together, it becomes a peptide. Peptides generally, from the peptides we're going to be talking about today, will be anything up to a chain of 50 amino acids. After that, it gets to polypeptides, growth hormone, etc. And then from peptides from 2 to 4 is the subcategory peptide bioregulators.
Awesome. Now, a lot of the audience listening to this are going to be men 30 to 40. So they want to be jacked, they want to be tanned, they want to be smart. If you were that type of individual, what would you recommend taking? What sort of peptides do UAE Peptides facilitate that, if that makes sense?
Jack, smart and tanned.
Yeah. It's like superhuman, right?
Yeah, superhuman. That's what we do it for, right? So, I mean, I've been researching peptides and doing peptides for 11 years. Tanning was not an issue, obviously. But
anyone who's watching the video.
yeah. I'm mixed race, so Caribbean heritage, so yeah, tanning's not an issue. But even though I did do Melanotan 1, which is really good for if you're doing a lot of meditation and inward work. So I took that, I think for about 3 days, and I was so dark. My wife was like, what are you doing? I said, it's not for the tanning, obviously. So that's an amazing product. But yeah, Melanotan 1 for tanning is fantastic. And as I say, for meditation. And
does it actually help in that, in what respect? In terms of like calming you down? Or
yeah, it's like this, it just gives you this inward focus. So when you're meditating, it just takes you to that level, you know, where some people do struggle to. And the amount of people you speak to that meditate and say it doesn't work. I said, how do you know it doesn't work? You know, but this does take you to another level. I did really find that. But you know, if I'd have continued on.
Were you taking that before doing the meditation, or were you taking that?
Taking it before during the meditation, but it's one of those things that stays in the system.
Compounds.
Yeah, exactly. Compounds over time. So that's a really good one.
I've actually, not gonna lie, I've got a load of it in my fridge, so I'm gonna try that then. Okay. Not just be tanned, but
if you're as brown as me when I see you, you know, there's something going on. And then jacked. Well, I mean, there's a plethora of peptides. I think now over the 11 years, you know, process trial and error. I think. Tesamorelin, which is a GHRH, so we're talking about secretagogues, right? So hormone secretagogues. GHRH, which is a growth hormone releasing hormone. Tesamorelin in the evening, because that mimics what your growth hormone's doing when you go to bed. And then the GHRP, growth hormone releasing peptide, which is ipamorelin, just one of many, but ipamorelin is the main one. Those two combined just give amazing results. Because again, it's mimicking what the systems do naturally. How I try and explain it, even though we know we don't have a hormone tank or growth hormone tank, is that the tesamorelin, it fills up your hormone tank. The ipamorelin releases it. So these two together, you just get amazing results. And in fact, I know we discussed about paddle. I'm sure that while I was playing paddle for 2 weeks and not training, I started to get a little bit more bulked out. But that's because I was on the two products. So if I wasn't on that, I don't know how much weight I would have lost. But yeah, fantastic, those two as a combination. And then smart, I mean, we haven't even touched on the bioregulators yet, which I would like to do more detail. But we have things like CMAX, Selank. These peptides have been created for anxiety, Alzheimer's, any neurological diseases. And these are quite popular because you can actually take them intranasally. And you do feel it within 10 minutes, you feel more focused. So I really like those peptides. Some people do suffer from headaches, so you just need to get the dosage right. But that combination there is a very powerful stack, actually. Melanotan, tesamorelin, ipamorelin, and CMAX and Selank, unbelievable stack.
So we have some clients who use actual growth hormone for anti-aging purposes. Would it be a bad idea to stack those peptides with that additionally?
I probably wouldn't do that. I would do one or the other. And maybe when they cycle off of the growth hormone, then cycle on to the tesamorelin or ipamorelin, or there's a CJC125, which is another GHRH as well. So yeah, I probably wouldn't do them at the same time, no.
Okay. And something I know a lot of people have issues with is things like gut health, and I know BPC157 is like one of the big things that helps with that. Is there anything else from a peptides point of view that you would use for people who maybe have digestive issues to try and help with that?
Yeah. So firstly, KPV. This is such a powerful product. It's actually this is my peptide of the year. So this is for gut health. It's mainly an anti-inflammatory for IBS, but for joint health as well. Yeah, it's quite seductive because sometimes it's not an anti-inflammatory drug. So, when we talk about peptides, we're talking about addressing the root cause, not curing or creating that sort of suppression effect you get from allopathic medicine. But it still can be a bit seductive. So, if I was to speak to anyone about KPV, I said just stick to your training while you're on it. Don't try to increase it too much because you will feel like you're invincible. But that can come with problems, especially at my age. You'll be fine. I'll have to be careful. And also for allergies, I've got a friend in the UK at the moment, and for some reason, hay fever in the UK is through the roof. You go anywhere else in the world, it's not like that. It's got to be something to do with the environment because the pollen there just seems to be so much stronger. I'm in Spain, and I can see the pollen floating around, and I don't get hay fever like that, or like I do in the UK. So I've got someone there now who lives in Dubai, strongman competitor. And his allergies just went through the roof. And luckily, he had some KP with him. He felt sick. The hay fever was so bad. So I said to him, "You got the KP with you for your gut?" He said, "Yeah, I'm on a break." I said, "Go straight back onto it." And within one day, his allergies cleared up. He couldn't believe it. So that's the power of some of these peptides. And then onto the peptide bioregulators. So we can discuss the bioregulators in more detail, but we have one specifically called the stomach bioregulator, and that just addresses all your digestive issues. It addresses any indigestion and overall gut health functionality.
With peptides, why do you think they haven't been accepted in like modern medicine and conventional medicine, if that makes sense? And without getting conspiracy theorists, do you think some of that's because of it's not advantageous for big pharmaceutical companies for that to go down that route, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So firstly, they're quite difficult to patent because they are just amino acid sequences from nature, basically. So that can be quite difficult to patent. The half-lives are quite poor. So you sometimes have to do multiple injections, 2 injections a day, and obviously most of them are daily. So that's quite hard for them to structure as well. And they're not capsules. We have the peptide bioregulators, but they're mainly the peptides we've been working on for the last 11 years. They're injections, which is just it's annoying for people to work with. So that's probably the 3 main reasons, and it's very, very difficult at the moment for them to monetize it. However, I think now we're up to 16 peptides that have been approved by the FDA. Thymosin beta 4, which is another one for injury repair that works alongside BPC. That's going to be approved anytime soon.
So TB500?
That's
similar.
Yeah, thymosin beta 4 is 4 fragments of a peptide. And then TB500, some people get this confused because they say it's the same thing. It's not. It's a fragment of thymosin beta 4, and the real name for it is fragment 1723, which means it's got between 17 and 23 amino acids. And that's also known as TB500.
Cool. And in regards to, say, for example, peptide usage and, for example, people on TRT or low testosterone, is there a use for peptides maybe to help with people who have low testosterone to maybe bring that back up, or hormonal issues in that presence?
Yeah, that's something that I've been working on a lot over the last couple of years, actually. People that have come off testosterone. I haven't done it myself. I said to myself a long time ago, when I'm 50, I'm going to start doing microdose of testosterone. So I'm not far off of that, a couple of years to go. So I will start doing that. So I have no issue with testosterone. But a lot of people just want to come off of it. And once they come off it, it can down-regulate, right? So we have Testogen or Testes, which is a bioregulator for the testicular function. So that helps you produce your own testosterone. So it's working endogenously. Kisspeptin's an amazing peptide for the precursor to testosterone, which is LH and FSH, and that works well with both women and men. So my wife has taken that recently because we're getting close to the premenopause age, and she felt a big difference. She really liked it. So it's just giving you that little boost of testosterone. So those 2 products, I've got so many people on those 2 at the moment, Testes and Kisspeptin, working really well.
It's interesting what you said about your wife and her having very low testosterone, because most women don't understand that one of the reasons they often feel really shit is their testosterone. Like, women need to have a base level of testosterone. If they don't have any, they feel fucking awful.
Yes.
And that's, I think, again, is a huge misconception. Same as, like, men also need to have some amount of estrogen to be able to have, like, high sex drive, high strength, and to function correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's overlooked. They do these peptide implants natural implants that you put in the back in your back for women. They work really well because they're a slow release, but it's something that we've looked at for a long time actually. And it's about the percentages, right? Just because we've got a high level of testosterone, if ours drop by 20%, it's a big factor. But of course, if women have much lower testosterone, but if it drops by 20%, it's still the same impact. And you can definitely, there's a massive difference from when I see women taking Kisspeptin and even any sort of form of testosterone. It works very well.
And like if we look at well-rounded health, most important thing, fundamental in everything, in my opinion, is sleep. Is there anything you can use to? So I actually had this conversation with my girlfriend earlier. I was like, I wish you could sleep less and have the same amount of results in terms of how you feel. And I take a few supplements in terms of which aid my sleep and help me get deeper sleep. You mentioned Oura rings, using Oura ring to track my sleep and try and optimize that. Is there anything you can use to try and really get more bang from your buck from sleeping or improve that process?
Yeah. So the first peptide I ever took was Epitalon,
okay,
which helps regulate your melatonin. And then that's now in a capsule form, which we also sell at UAE Peptides, which is called the pineal peptide, which obviously regulates the pineal gland at the centre of the bottom of your brain. And this is such a powerful peptide because what it's doing, it's regulating your circadian rhythm. Now, when it's trying to regulate your whole circadian rhythm, it's obviously everything. It's your hormones. So I use this as like the conductor to the orchestra of hormones. Yeah. So obviously they all have different functionality, but if you get this one right, then it's really going to help the rest of the hormone balance. So you take this pineal, and there's it's not a misconception, but a lot of people say there are no side effects to peptide bioregulators because they test it with over 10 million people over 30 years and no one had any adverse reactions to it. So very, very safe. But there's a caveat to that, is that if you take a peptide or a bioregulator that needs to do some deep repair, you will feel tired. Because obviously, as you rightly say, sleep is the foundation of health. So one thing these peptides are going to do is try encourage you to sleep more so you can repair more. So when you take the pineal, be prepared. It's only a 10-day course. I explain the courses shortly. But for those first 10 days, from about day 3 to about day 8, you will feel tired. You'll want to take afternoon naps. You'll want to go to bed early. And especially if your sleep cycle's out to what it should be, because again, we're working with nature here. And if the sun rises at 6 a.m, I'm not sure when it rises here, but if the sun rises at 5:30, okay, sun rises at 5:30, that's when it would like you to be up. And then once it gets dark and the sun sets, that's when it would like you to go to bed. So if you're not doing that, it's going to be trying to make you do that. So you will feel tired at strange times.
And you mentioned there in terms of like courses, with peptides, is it the type of thing you need to cycle on or off, or you can take it continuously, or does that depend in terms of different peptides and I presume the goal? Because a lot of peptides, like from my own experience, I've only used BPC 157 and TB 500 for injuries, obviously for a shorter duration to fix an issue. What would you say is the solution for that? Yeah,
so we've got therapeutic peptides and we've got peptide bioregulators, which are still therapeutic, but research peptides, therapeutic, and peptide bioregulators. So peptide bioregulators, we like to create what we call pulsing effect. So you do 10 days on, 20 days off. A lot of people I know that where money's no object, I just want to stay on them because I feel great. I said, but you're not going to get optimal effect because it's creating a pulse. You do 10 days on, 20 days off. 20 days off is just as important as the 10 days on.
So almost like reset your receptors for that.
Exactly. And then you do that for 3 months. That's a real basic cycle if you've got something to focus on, not if it's chronic, but something you think, my gut's not been quite right, or my thyroid's not good. I had a blood test. So that's quite a good basic protocol for peptide bioregulators. And you've got 21 of those. For the peptides themselves, it's extremely individual. This is what takes up all my time. I've been trying to work out how to centralise this because all I do is speak to people about courses, feedback on how they feel, because as I say, you need to get a response from people to see how certain peptides they're reacting to, as in, do they feel tired? Has their libido shot through the roof? It's just getting that sort of feedback is really important. There is a generalisation with peptides, therapeutic peptides, and that generally is maximum 3 months, 5 days on, 2 days off. So you get that little break in between, then you can push it for 3 months, and then 3 months on, 3 months off, 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off, however often you want to run it.
Okay. And what's the random question? What's the manufacturing process of peptides? Like you obviously mentioned they come from branched chain amino acids.
Yep.
So where are you producing these? Are the UAE peptides produced in the UAE or?
No. So the UAE peptides is the peptide bioregulators, which are produced in Russia.
Okay.
And then the research peptides are produced in the US. So we work with a compound pharmacy in the US.
Okay. And in terms of the long-term usage of peptides, well, like one of the big concerns, for example, I have is in terms of like Alzheimer's, which I know is one of the big issues that people have, obviously, in declining health as they age. And I believe there are some products out there that are supposed to be able to help with combating that.
Yeah.
Is there any peptides you guys use to help fight neurological diseases?
Absolutely. So the Slank and the C-Max, which I mentioned earlier, so works intranasally, very good. Also, you can do it subcutaneous. Cerebralizin, really good peptide for that. There's just so many studies on delaying the onset of, or even not, completely avoiding Alzheimer's. We don't access that at the moment. That the best version of that comes from pig. Okay. So, we can't obviously access that here for obvious reasons, but I've seen some great results of that outside the Middle East. Unbelievable. It's intramuscular as well, which is interesting. They're normally systematic through subcutaneous.
Why would they do that intramuscular versus sub-Q?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know much about this product because I haven't really been able to get my hands on it, but all the research is saying that it works much better intramuscularly.
Cool. And in terms of the future of peptides, where do you see this going to in the future with what you guys are doing?
Yeah. So look, I'm working with, over the 11 years, I've probably worked with over 60 different peptides. The peptide bioregulators, the reason I'm in the UAE is to really start to launch this business, and just the whole idea is to get everyone to know about it, because some of the results are just so profound and we just want everyone to be taking them. There's no reason why you shouldn't take them. So the peptide bioregulators, in capsule form, there's no reason why we just can't just get that out to everybody. So, and that can just continue to grow. I can't ever see the FDA or anybody clamping down on that, because it is just a food source. It's a food supplement. I've been in the supplement industry for a while, and I know that the FDA have tried to regulate supplements before, but they weren't successful, for the simple fact that if the FDA or the allopathic industry start to look at supplements as aging as a disease, then at that point they may want to regulate supplements. But if they do that, then we won't be able to buy vitamin D off the shelf, because anything that has been deemed to help you slow down aging or fight disease, then you can't take it. So you won't even be able to buy vitamin C. So there's been a lot of fights in different courts. I know the lawyers have been fighting that, so that probably won't ever come through, but I digress massively. And with subcutaneous peptides, there's more and more clinics using them, even if they're not regulated. Obviously, they're sort of self-regulating them. So, as I say, there's 14 to 16 available now. Peptides is the future. I know in 10 years' time, a lot of my friends, we've been around this cycle. I was making videos of me doing ice baths 6 years ago. What are you doing? And then we got Russell Brand and everyone jumping in ice baths. And, we're just ahead of the game. I'm not a bodybuilder, but bodybuilders, physique models and military, these guys are the original biohackers. They're way ahead. So whatever they were doing would catch up. Bodybuilders have been taking iprambalin since 2000. Now people are just talking about it. So they're always ahead of the game. And I think in the next 10 years, the peptide is going to be massive. I mean, look, the predicted to be the biggest selling drug of 2023 is Monjaro, right? Which
I saw that.
That's a polypeptide. I've been working with that for 4 years, and I've seen some amazing results. This is a whole other subject. I mean, if you want me to talk about
we can go into that.
Okay.
So what's Monjaro, if anyone who doesn't know?
Okay, so that's a GLP. So basically it mimics the peptide, glucagon-like peptide, which mimics the peptide in the stomach that controls the speed of the digestive system and the not the side effect, but the impact is that it fills you up. You don't feel hungry. Appetite suppressant's a bit of a harsh word, but it is an appetite suppressant if you sell it in high doses. So here's my frustration with this product. The pharmaceutical company have launched it at 2.5 milligram. This is the Monjaro pen. So it's a nice, easy to use pen. People inject themselves subcutaneous like they do with insulin, which is also a peptide, and they don't get hungry. Some people don't want to eat at all. Some people can't eat for 3 days. Some people feel physically sick. And as always with this industry, they just treat everybody the same.
Same dose, no matter.
Same dose.
100 kilos, 50 kilos.
Yeah, exactly. You must be 90 kilos. They give us the same dose. It's ridiculous. So that's my problem with it. And now people it's being sort of tainted a little bit. And people say, "Oh, it's rubbish." I'm losing muscle, and there's some research that it might cause cancer, and it's disrupting the gut. I've been starting clients on 1 milligram, and so you go into a pharmacy, you take it, go home, inject yourself once a week. It's insane. So when I work for my clients, I get them to take the 1 milligram on the Monday because it's only a once a week injection. I need to know how they feel 4 hours later. I need to know how they feel 24 hours later, 48 hours, and so forth, because I need to understand what's going on with their hunger, whether they felt any nausea. So that sort of feedback is very critical before you work out the sweet spot of what dosage is required. So generally the sweet spot for most people is 1.5 milligrams. As I said, they're setting it at 2.5. It's ridiculous. At 1.5, the results I've seen are just amazing. People are losing weight. They're more insulin sensitive. They're still eating 3 meals a day. I've got them focused on protein, got them focused on strength training. And in fact, what I'm saying to people now, if you don't consume protein and you don't, at least 100 grams of protein a day, and you're not doing some sort of strength or resistance training, I refuse to sell them to you or work with you on them, because this is when the problems will start to happen long term for obvious reasons, right? The muscle deterioration. So, yeah, that's my little gripe on that.
It's funny, actually, Mark, you met coming in here, we were talking about, Monjaro actually came up in the conversation because we were saying that the big issue is like people take that, but then they just stop eating completely, and it's like, and then they moan they lose all the muscle mass. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. It's like, if you eat nothing, then you're going to, and then people rebound really heavily afterwards because they go back to their old bad habits. And I think that's the most important thing for people in weight loss in particular. It's like not who you become in the process in terms of the habits you pick up, rather than the way you look at the end that's going to keep you the results. Yes. Which I think why things like Monjaro are great, but I think they also can cause problems in the wrong hands, if that makes sense, because some people can't think not the repercussions, but how do I handle life after Monjaro,
exactly.
Almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and how long do I cycle off for? What's the sensible cycle to do with Monjaro? And generally I like sort of 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off, depending on how much weight they've got to lose 3 times, and then we have a long break.
Is that just to keep the receptors open to that?
Yeah, because then they will start requiring higher dosages.
Yeah. And more side effects, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, the side effects have been very minimal at 1.5. Some people are more sensitive. Most people, 1.5. I've got one person up to 2.5, huge guy. But yeah, generally it's fine. You just, and as you say, it's just, they need coaching. You can't just go and buy it from the pharmacy or buy it from a doctor and jab yourself with 2.5 milligrams and then go home.
Off you go.
It's a disaster. That's a disaster.
Well, I also think then the problem is that people don't know what to do if not something goes wrong, but if they start to feel sick or they feel weird. It's like sometimes reassurance in that point, I think, is a huge thing sometimes.
Yeah. And it's pre-warning them. I've seen people buy it from the pharmacy. The guy.
I think you can buy it here. I think
you can. People taking it home in their suitcases from here. The guy that introduced us, actually, he came here and he said, I couldn't get hold of 2.5, so I bought 5. And the guy at the pharmacy said it would have the same effect. You couldn't eat for 3 days. He felt terrible. He said, there you go. That's the information. Imagine you just doubled your dose.
But this actually sums up Dubai in some respects. Like, Dubai's an amazing place, but sometimes things like that, like literally will just sell you anything in terms of like, just take 3 times as much, will be fine. It's it's would you say with peptides less is more sometimes?
I would say that almost of anything to do with supplementation, to be honest. And it's debates I have with a lot of people that just keep the dosages sensible. This is therapeutic for a reason. There's no point going high and then saying, I need to go higher, I'm not getting the effect. Let's start low, let's work together. And this is my pain point, is because I don't want people just walking away and injecting peptides and not talking to me. I want it to do well. I want people to respond well to it. So, as I say, 80%, 90% of my life is speaking to people about peptide protocols and their feedback.
So Monjaro is obviously one of the big weight loss peptides. What would you say second, and that obviously suppresses appetite, is there anything that focuses more in terms of maybe fat oxidation or that process specifically?
Yeah. So tesamorelin, the one we discussed at the beginning, that's amazing for losing weight around the midsection, for cutting up. That tesamorelin was approved by the FDA, but I don't think it is anymore. I'm not sure. And it was originally approved to work with men with HIV that were going to go on medication, but the medication would work if they was carrying too much body fat. So the tesamorelin really reduces that quickly. So it's a growth hormone releasing hormone with all the benefits of growth hormone, but you also get really cut from it as well. So, and that's amazing for people. Just want to say as a side note, I know I don't need to tell you this, but as a side note before I forget, peptides won't work by themselves. So, if people just carry on,
a shit lifestyle.
Exactly. You've got to give them a chance. So it just it wants to encourage your body to fix itself, or whatever objective you have. It's going to really help you get there quicker. But if you're still eating crap, not getting out in the sun, all the basic stuff, then don't waste your money.
I think that's a huge thing. I think people don't think of we live in a society where people want the quick fix, and I think the reality is that there are, I won't say shortcuts, but quicker ways to get to the end result. And it's a bit like people think like just because you give someone a Formula One car doesn't mean they can win a Grand Prix, right? So it's like you need to understand that you can have all the best tools in the world, but you have to be able to actually apply them correctly. And if you put Michael Schumacher in a Formula One car, then he's going to win the Grand Prix. So if you start to have the habits like Michael Schumacher, then you'll probably get the results you want and you win the Grand Prix in a racing analogy.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. Well, actually, nice little segue is that I did a post yesterday, I think you might have saw it actually, on a guy that had type 1 diabetes, whose dad was a famous Formula 1 driver actually. And he's a good sportsman. He's Formula 2. He does everything spot on. His diet's good. I mean, he lives in Ibiza, so he goes off the rails sometimes. But, he's very, very meticulous. And he'd only been on the pancreas bioregulator for 7 days when he got those results. And that's the case in point. I could have other type 1 diabetics on that and they won't get results that quickly, but he's out cycling every single day, he eats well, he's super fit, and you saw the results. He's had the best outcome he's had since he was a teenager of his insulin control, his insulin sensitivity, and that happened in 7 days.
Can these work, I presume they work well, say like you mentioned insulin sensitivity, things like metformin and other drugs that are designed to help in terms of blood sugar levels?
Yep. So the great thing about peptide bioregulators specifically is their idea says it on the tin really. The objective is to regulate the target area, normalise or balance. So if you are not well and you're taking a medication or you're taking metformin for whatever purposes, then the associated bioregulator is just going to help you get there quicker. And that was tested through COVID actually. People with respiratory issues that were taking medication, and they had test cases that were taking medication without peptides and test cases that were taking the lung peptide, and every time they recovered more quickly with
the peptide, the lung peptide, they recovered quick from COVID.
Yeah, with the medication.
Yeah, that's interesting. And was that ever pushed publicly to use peptides? No.
Let's not go down.
It is what it is. Yeah, it's what it is.
Let's not go down that road. But peptides are becoming more popular, and as I say, I just want to get it out there. I want everyone to look at these peptide bioregulators. I met someone yesterday who runs or is an editor of a famous magazine, and I was explaining how these worked, and I could see she wasn't really getting it. And then at the end of it, we said, "Look, would you like to try some?" And she said, "To be honest, I'm a bit scared what effect it's going to have on me." And I was like, and after everything I explained about it being natural, it comes from food. I mean, if you're not vegan, you're consuming your peptide bioregulators every day. It's just that we've got this in a more purified, concentrated form, so it gives you that better effect. It's not medicine. It is medicine, but it's not allopathic medicine. There's no list of side effects, as already said. So just to understand that even if you don't think you need them, you still take something like P-Nil anyway. That's just going to help balance your circadian rhythm. And sometimes people say, well, where do I start? There's 21 commercially available peptide bioregulators. And the question, again, as I said in the post,
trying to fix?
What's your weakest point? You're only as strong as your weakest point, right? So that's number one. If you say, actually, do you know what, I feel fine, I've got no weak points that I'm aware of, which most people do, then it's genetically. Is there any issues with your mum, dad, grandparents? Is there any disease that, do they have heart disease? Okay, so let's focus on the heart bioregulator and the blood bioregulator, because the idea is this is all about prevention.
With that, peptides, what's like the half-life of them? Does it matter what time of day you take them? You only mentioned some of them are like AM, PM. Is there an effect in terms of, like, say, tesamorelin? Like, should you take it just before training? Like, is there any effects in that respect in terms of, like, actual timing of when you use these things? Yeah,
so generally, peptide half-lives are not great. They're quite short.
Quick.
They are quick, yeah. Tesamorelin, for optimal outcome, you take before bed and 90 minutes away from food. So away from any sugar spikes for optimal outcome. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. Ipamorelin, the same, except you take it in the morning before, long before breakfast, almost as soon as you wake up. Ipamorelin has a terrible half-life. To optimise ipamorelin, you probably should take it 3 times a day at least. But no one wants to inject themselves 3 times a day with a peptide. So generally once with tesamorelin, or twice if you want to push it. BPC, short half-life, has to be taken twice a day. Thymosin beta-4, a longer half-life, you can take that actually every other day. That works fine. So to answer your question, in general, the half-lives are very short, but of course they all differ. And there's 60 of them, so I won't go through them all.
What would you say is your peptide stack, or the best one you recommend for people? Say you're someone who runs a business and you also want to be athletic in shape. What's like this is you. What's the go-to stack for you?
Yeah. So as you probably can tell, I favour tesamorelin and ipamorelin. Okay. I like that. Currently, I'm going through a bit of a recovery coach, so I don't want to not answer your question, but at the moment I'm taking the muscle bioregulator because, as we discussed, I've been playing a lot of paddle, so I'm trying to recover. And I take the retina because the effect that I got from the retina peptide was insane, just from a personal perspective, where I started doing that on my phone.
So this is my eyesight. This is one of the. I'm glad you brought this up. My eyesight's like falling apart because I spend so much time on the computer. Does it have a significant difference with that?
Yeah. Okay, I couldn't believe it, especially for you. I mean, as I said, I'm not going to keep saying my age, but it'll be even better. The earlier you catch it, the better. And there's a bit of a protocol actually. There's a product called Can-C, which is an eye drop. I think it's a company called Profound Health, and you can buy those on Amazon. Not sure if you can get them in the UAE, but you can buy them on Amazon. And they're an eye drop you take 3 times a day for 6 months. Take that along with the retina peptide, which you take 10 days on, 20 days off. That's probably the only one I'm going to continue with. I'm probably going to take that every month for a while, just because, as I say, we spend so much time on our phones, and especially when I'm travelling, I'm a lot better when I'm at home. I leave my phone downstairs and go to bed. But when I'm travelling in a hotel room, I've got my phone next to me, and I travel a lot. And that's when I travel, I feel my eyes getting worse. So I do maintain the retina peptide. Digress slightly. So yeah, the retina, the muscle, tesamorelin, ipamorelin, KPV. That's my current stack. I just love the KPV for the recovery when you're training.
Is that in terms of is that more immune system, like nervous system function, or is it actually like reducing DOMs in terms of muscularity, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it's because it has that anti-inflammatory effect.
Okay.
I think
more systemic.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, as I say, I paddle, golf, training, CrossFit, traveling, just everything. So looking after my joint health is very important, and that allows me to train more. And again, you have to just be very sensible and understand that it doesn't suppress pain, but I like to treat it like it does. Because I just, don't want to start stacking up weights all of a sudden because I lift heavy and not walk for a month. So you just have to be sensible with it. But that's what I'm running currently. Just thinking about what's in my fridge back at the hotel. So
you allowed to travel with peptides?
I'm
going to Vegas in like 2-3 weeks. So
I mean, look, they're research chemicals. So, and you are allowed to have research chemicals on you because it's for research purposes only. So, and if they go on the internet,
I'm experiment, right?
Exactly. look at you. They go. I've heard stories. They go on Google and say it's amino acids, it's protein. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
They let you through.
Okay. In regards to use of peptides, is there like a minimum age limit? So say like there's, I don't know, someone's got like a kid who's like 16, 17, and they want to go push into like pro sports. Is that a bad route to go down the peptide route in that scenario? I know it's a grey area, but just for anyone who's listening.
Yeah, I would avoid doing peptides until you're 21, until things are
fully developed.
In saying that, my daughter's been away at boarding school. She did a year at boarding school, and it didn't really contribute to how focused she was before. It was either going to make her or break her, or break her then make her, and it just didn't really go well. So and her attention, she's got a bit of attention deficit now. So there's a product that sort of fits into the peptide family called bromantane. Okay. It's a powder form. You put it under the tongue, sublingual, and they were using that a lot in the US actually and Canada for children with ADHD. To help them focus. They literally give them a little dab of like 50 milligrams before breakfast, put it under their tongue, and it's helping them focus throughout the day. That was banned in the Chinese Olympics because people were just having a little bit more of a cognitive advantage. So and I mean, I tried some before paddle a couple of weeks ago. I'm just hoping,
did it work? Did you win?
I'm just hoping no one has listened to this. I played paddle with because we did. It's the first time I beat them 7-5, 7-5.
Performance enhancing.
And I just felt. As the game went on, it's hot. I just felt more clarity, and I was moving around well. So I really like that product, and that's super safe. It's just that it's a competitive advantage.
Do you have an opinion on like modafinil usage in terms of cognitive performance from that side of things, or is that something that you've experienced with in the past, or usage?
Yeah, I have never used modafinil actually, but when we was talking about sort of bodybuilders and the military people being the first original biohack as well. The French military actually started with that product. It was
modafinil.
Modafinil. It was the French military, so they took modafinil to be more sharp and focused when going into whatever they're doing. So and that's where that originated from. So modafinil did help them focus more. So if you get a good quality product, then it's going to help, I'm sure.
Yes, I've used it a couple of times, and I haven't used it for a while. And I remember it's like anything. Like you read the side effects or something, like insomnia, and then I think the second time I took it, I couldn't sleep. I was like, I'm never going to sleep again. And then it's like, and that sort of put me off. And I can only really use like really low dose. I think they come in like 200 milligram tabs, and I think I was doing 50. Because I think whatever I had was obviously pretty strong. But I'm fascinated more by like the brain side of things, of how you can like open that up, because I think whether it's statistically true or not, my understanding is that you can only use 5% of your brain's power. So it's like, imagine if you get that up to even just like 10%, you're twice as smart, right?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about psychedelics?
Yeah, let's go into that.
So as I said, I've been appointed a director of a company called State Mode Medical, and our focus is adaptogen and psychedelic mushrooms. So we've been approved by the Jersey government to grow, test and destroy psilocybin. And also adaptogens as well. And I've seen adaptogen. So the problem we have with all these mushroom coffees and teas and these capsules, some are good, some are not, but it really depends on your digestive system, your bioavailability, can you absorb. So and it's just so varied. It's just too many variables once you put something into your gut. Sublingual is the way that these products are going to work best. So I'm not going to talk any more on that because there's some NDAs in place. But this is the future. And then some of the results I've seen from people microdosing psilocybin that were PTSD, depressed, even suicidal. It's completely changed their lives. I mean, I've got case studies on my phone that I can send to you after, just at the responses these people get very, very quickly. I don't advocate working this blindly. The company that's going to be doing this commercially, we will have gamification where you'll work with therapists and we will find your exact dose that works for you, and it will be very individual. And with that, that's going to work, because you shouldn't really feel anything. When you do these microdosing, you shouldn't feel anything. I sold it to myself because I used to listen to all these different podcasts and say, take it in the morning, you'll be super focused. I'm like, okay, yeah. So I take it in there, and I've got ready to do a newsletter, and then I'm caught away from the newsletter. I'm just like, I do not want to be in here typing a news. I want to be out in the sun. I've got a gym in my garden. So I just went and trained and put the music on, and my wife comes home and I'm dancing in the garden. She's like, I thought you were supposed to be training. I'm doing a newsletter. I said, yeah, I got a bit sidetracked. So, you need to find that right balance in that dose so you don't feel anything. But actually, when we do these tests, we can tell before and after whether your neurological pathways are opening. And this is all about opening your pathways, rather, because you've got your pathways closed as you grow, and you get sort of these preconceptions because we're grown ups and our brains are basically shutting off to everything that we don't understand to be real. Like I gave you the analogy of watching someone close the curtains. There's no way the curtains can close unless you see it, because that's what we've been programmed to do. But actually, when I did that test, the computer was closing the curtains, but I just couldn't conceive it and concept it. And then I did the low dose, and I saw it happening. So the key to this is open neurological pathways, and this is when we're going to start using more of our brain. It's going to be massive. It's already legalised in Australia. They can start importing from the 1st of July. That's MDMA, ketamine, and psilocybin. Really? Yep. And there's loads of states already.
I'm surprised Australia is legalised that, because they're weird with, like, I don't know, someone had a vial of testosterone, like, you go into prison. Like, that's really
it's bizarre, isn't it? I'm the same. I said, of all the places to start, but fair play to them. They've actually ahead of the game, and the rest of us are going to need to catch up, and we're going to need to catch up fast. Canada, I think, might have...
They're quite liberal with stuff like that.
Yeah. It's exciting times. I think the next couple of years, these are going to be real game changers.
Do you think the whole world is opening up a lot more to performance enhancement with products like this? Because even from my experience in fitness over the last 10 years, there's a lot more openness on PD usage and all sorts of stuff like that. And I think people talking more about like cognitive performance enhancing drugs, I think it's becoming much more mainstream acceptable. Even maybe like people like Joe Rogan talking about it, or like whoever, it becomes more mainstream. And even if you look at the US, cannabis is legal everywhere. Canada's the same thing. Do you think the world is suddenly starting to just let this happen a bit more now?
Yeah, I just don't think we had any choice. People are not silly. It's okay suppressing all this. And again, I'm not going to go down a conspiracy route, because we're all learning, right? Maybe the people the governments are learning as well, because some places are legalising it. So we're all catching up. It's been around for a very, very long time. It's in nature, and the more I learn about what we do, about health optimization, cognitive performance, everything that's going to really optimize us comes from nature, and it's just knowing how to use it. And the world's opening up to it. I don't know if COVID had something to do with it. I think, again, a lot of conspiracy theories flying around about COVID, and a lot of people doubted what was going on, and that made them explore other avenues, alternative health. I think it's exciting times.
I think it's even if you look at that AI, all the other new stuff, I think the world's suddenly starting to accelerate really, really quickly. Suddenly, even like I said to someone the other day, ChatGPT, whatever, only came out in November, all this other stuff, and like the stuff that even the new stuff I'm seeing, like, I saw some stuff the other day. I was like, Jesus, like this is advancing so quickly that it's incredible now.
Yeah, we're actually using AI technology to grow the mushroom spores. So the key is we're growing them in these domes. And we don't want to go down the synthetic route. We want to grow them from natural mushroom spores. And these big octagon domes, they communicate with each other. So we're using vibrations and different light technology. So if these spores of mushrooms grow quicker than the container, wherever that may be, it will communicate with them saying, look, I'm ahead of you. You need to catch me up. I'm going to give you more vibration, give you more red light, because this is what I've been doing to get to this point, and I'm going to downgrade mine until you catch me up. So the potency of every single mushroom will be exactly the same, and that's happening because of AI technology.
Yeah, it's genius. What would you say in terms of, for anyone listening to this who they want to get involved in peptides and maybe learn more, is the best place for them to go, maybe do some more research if they're not fully sure, like the lady said, who's maybe a bit scared?
Yeah, I think... I mean, you go to our website, so UAEpeptides.com.
Put the link below the podcast.
Okay, thank you. That's good for the peptide bioregulators. I'm also created a company called UAElabresearch.com, and that I'm using as a platform to dig into, to really investigate peptides, the research, where they come from, protocols that work for people, the categories, what they're for. So I've just started that site. So at the moment, there's just 20 peptides on there and their research history, 21. And I'm building that website as I go, because I actually want to try and use it as a central point where I can send people so they don't call me 30 times a day.
Yeah, I can imagine you need to centralise that. But really, really appreciate your time, Dean. There's a ton of information and knowledge for that. Do you guys have any social media or anywhere else where anyone else can reach out to you guys and find out more about what you do?
UAE Peptides.
Okay.
That's a good one. DN Labs is also a good one. That's the facilities in Holland, so we look after all the Europe and UK, and then we can also for Dubai as well, and then UAE Peptides for Dubai. They're the main two social media channels. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time. For everyone listening to this, make sure you go and check out UAE Peptides. I'm going to give this some of the stuff a while and let you report back. If you found this episode enjoyable, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. We'll be doing plenty more episodes, more down this line coming up soon. See you next episode very soon.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me.
Thank you. It was awesome. Good.